Today is all disco and bell-bottoms, baby, as we talk about the economic turning point that was the 1970s.
You and FDR.
In our last video, we talked about the importance of 1944, perhaps the height of Keynesian power with the conference at Bretton Woods and the beginning of the neoliberal ideology with the publishing of Friedrich Hayek's book, Road to Serfdom. While Keynes would reign supreme for the better part of the next 3 decades, the seeds planted by Hayek would be ready for harvest in the 1970s. The post-World War II economic boom in the United States was unparalleled in modern history. Continued investments into the military-industrial complex, the stability enshrined in social programs under FDR and LBJ, and the height of union membership. We weren't perfect, but the economic gains for the lower and middle classes were undeniable. For the corporate class, this was an intolerable state of affairs. The first part of the 70s found the GOP in a bit of a crisis. All of the social welfare protections from FDR and LBJ were really popular. They looked out of step with the civil rights movement. Their man Nixon was about to go down in flames. They were just beginning to pivot messaging under Nixon with the Southern strategy to look less racist, but they needed to prey on people's fears. So they started hammering away at crime, pitting poor blacks and whites against one another. They began a long-running campaign to demonize unions that were vulnerable due to corruption scandals at the top. And of course, they were othering brown people throughout the world. So the strategies were there, but they would need a little help to make them stick. And that help was right around the corner. Heading into the 70s, the social fabric of the country was pulling apart with opposition to the Vietnam War and the crescendo of the civil rights era. The country felt generally ill at ease, but the turning point for the GOP was economic headwinds that were about to reach hurricane level with a few key events. It was Richard Nixon who unwittingly lit the first match. Remember that thing that Keynes worked so hard for? Pegging gold to the dollar to allow for currency to grow and flow more freely, but still operate under a system of global restraint? Yeah, well, Nixon pulled that in 1971 and allowed currency to float freely. We're going to delve into this another time and probably show why this was ultimately a good thing. And at the time, it really did supercharge the US economy. But on the flip side, it was so sudden that it threw the global financial markets into complete chaos. Trading partners all over the world struggling to regulate their economies to the surging dollar. Then we had a dual oil shock that drove fuel prices through the roof, not once, but twice. This was at a time when it was believed that oil was finite and in fact running out, due to the logic of something called the Hubbert curve. Again, for another day. But the bottom line is that OPEC production was pulled twice, once in protest and once as part of the Iranian Revolution. The confluence of events led to something called stagflation, where both unemployment and inflation rise in tandem, something economists thought to be impossible, as they are typically inversely related. Stagflation was at a peak from 73 to 74, cooled out a bit thereafter, but it came roaring back from 78 to 81. It was enough to doom the Carter presidency for sure. For the first time in decades, it seemed as though the monetary and fiscal policies crafted in the Keynesian tradition were falling apart. In the search for answers, a plucky, buttoned-up group of nerds from the Chicago School of Economics were all too eager to raise their hands. Now, a couple of things were bubbling below the surface during this period as well. It's hard to impress upon younger people today just how influential a consumer advocate named Ralph Nader was during this period. Ralph Nader was a one-person wrecking crew calling corporate America on its BS. And corporate America had just about enough of him. And taxes, and regulations, and workers. Anything that impeded them from their ability to stack profits. So there are a few important events to know from this period to set the stage for future topics and help explain the rise of neoliberalism and why the 70s, writ large, were so pivotal. And in a later video, we're going to do more of a complete timeline. The first event to know is Milton Friedman's election to head a group founded by Friedrich Hayek called the Mont Pelerin Society. This was a changing of the guards, a signal that a new sheriff was in town with a new bag of tricks. The second is the circulation of a memo now simply referred to as the Powell Memo, which we'll cover in detail in the very next episode. It was essentially a call to arms to corporate America to take back control of the country. And in 1973, the Heritage Foundation was born, perhaps the most destructively influential think tank ever. So we're going to talk about the Heritage Foundation, the Powell Memo, all of these things shortly in separate videos. But suffice it to say, the neoliberal order was officially born. If you like what we're doing and where this is going, please subscribe to the channel. Then go to work, log on to all of your friends' computers, and do the same thing from there. Check out our website, unftr.com, to find out more about our podcast, where we go into much greater detail about politics, socioeconomics, and all of the things under the sun. Also, if you want to support us, you can buy our native roasted coffee in partnership with the native coffee traders. All of that information is also on unftr.com. Thank you so much for helping us get this channel off the ground. Appreciate all of the support from the community. Here endeth the video.